All right. This is module number 10. We have 3 chapters to go through, and these are actually the last set of 3 chapters that we're going to do. And then after that, we are essentially making our way towards the final. So if you have fallen behind because life happens, hooray, you actually have some weeks to catch up and not feel the penalty of not meeting the due until deadline, and having that time to be able to catch up. And if you're all caught up, then you can take the final. And if you've done Splunk before, that'll be a piece of cake, and you'll be done with that. So if you're all caught up, it'll be a nice, easy end. If you are not caught up, do not fret. You have plenty of time to catch up. So let's get started with chapter 10. This is really going to be more of Windows Update than anything else. More specifically, the Windows Server Update Services, or WSUS. It's a server role that essentially allows your server to be the update server for your systems. You can handle all your patch management from this one device. So your advantages of using this instead of the Microsoft update is you can control what updates make it. You can reduce internet bandwidth because updates are being downloaded to one and then from there distributed to your local network, which tends to be faster. Only approved updates are installed, which is very important, because you determine which patches and updates to apply into your network. Plenty of times we've had Microsoft updates that instead of fixing will create a bigger mess. And by having something like this update service on your network, you can prevent that, because you would tell those updates that would crash things to not install and avoid that headache. As you know, its update is already built in, enabled by default, and no real way to turn it off. You can defer it, but you can't really turn it off anymore. It takes a lot of work to turn off automatic updates. But you can definitely defer and say what hours updates will be active. Restarts happen, and we all know that those suck. It tends to happen at the worst time, right? When you're in a presentation or you're doing something important, and then, updates have to be installed. And by the way, we have to restart. And now you have to wait another 30 minutes for the update to install, and then life can resume, hopefully, without any issues. So you can choose when to run those updates locally. Just like any other role, it's installed into Windows Server. Ideally, it shouldn't be installed on the domain controller. This really should be a different system, because updates are actually important. And you don't want the DC to also be your update manager. In one view, you don't want them to be the same, because if it gets compromised, not only is your domain compromised, but also your updates allowing an attacker to infiltrate all your other systems through a legitimate service. So by having them split, you minimize that risk. So it has a database, the Windows internal database, which is basically SQL. You can use SQL as well, especially when we're going big and covering multiple systems. Like I said, it should be as a separate server, and it can be installed as a single server solution. You can have multiple servers acting together, and they can act as autonomous or replica mode. So they can either all work alone or work all together. So if we have two sites, let's say, we can replicate from one that we're controlling and send out to the other. Installing it is just like any other role, and you'll see some specific options for this, which are these three: the connectivity, the services, and SQL. So you'll choose which ones you want to add on with this role. You'll choose the location to store all your updates. And then you'll have a management console where you can do everything else. Like where's the upstream server, or where any network settings, any languages, all that kind of stuff. You can do all from there. There's a nice wizard to help you out too. If you have a mixed environment, this update service can handle it. So if you have Windows 8s and 10s, or Server 2016, this update service can handle them all. So configurations that you'll need to do once it's all nice and set up. You'll create groups, and your two defaults are all computers and unassigned computers. So you can make groups, kind of like you can do OUs in the DC. You can make custom groups. You can assign computers into groups either by the update service console or group policy, since it all ties together. Group policy has the capability to manage this. So here you go, enabling the client-side targeting to figure out where the group will go, what system this group will go into, or what group. Once you have your computers in their groups, you can start configuring those updates. Again, this will all link with the OUs and GPO, so this isn't completely separate. It's all part of one big infrastructure, which makes life easier in a way because it's all ties together. Your policy settings in GPO are in here: computer configuration, policies, admin, templates, Windows component, Windows update. And there they are. Now, if you have a specific internet location, that's where you would input it. There it is. So in this example, server DM1 is going to be the place where our desktops, workstations, and anything else using this specific policy will get the updates from. How long to wait, what branch to use. After that's all configured in GPO, we can link it to the domain or any other OU. And have all that done through group policy. The synchronization and approval rules is particularly important. This is where you would have some work to do. So after you've configured these systems, putting them in the groups that you want them to belong into, then okay, now how are we going to sync our updates? Do we want to do it manually or automatic, and at what time? You could use automatic approval. So when an update shows up from Microsoft, you can choose to have this service automatically approve of an update and send it on its way, or have yourself choose. So you can specify a classification for an update to be approved and what computer. Again, if you are controlling what updates are making it to your system, you at least want to know. And there are some updates that could be fine, that won't really affect anything that you're using, and if it goes south, it can be shrugged off, versus other things that will affect like the operating system or the kernel that you might want to double check and make sure it doesn't cause mayhem for you. So right, you have your criteria of the update classification, a specific product, and a deadline. Here are all the classifications. So if there's a driver update, maybe you don't want to manually approve it. You want to just let it go right away. So you would just say, yes, any driver update, go right away. Any service packs, sure, go ahead. But maybe specific upgrades or update rollups or critical updates we want to check before they go out to the systems. So here's the manual. You can select more than one on your list to approve at once. This can get tedious if you don't, if you're not strategic on what kind of updates do you really want to manually approve versus which ones are perfectly fine. And then after selecting those, you would approve for install. You could also use proxy servers to help you with this. So again, great for communicating with multiple sites. So you would set up the source and proxy server in the settings. You can also download other languages. Now, pretty much anything you can do from Microsoft Update, you can do in this update service. If you need to change the update file location, you can use the command line to do so. Not so much done from the wizard after it's set up. You can also configure SSL so that the communications on the site, that internal site, are secure. And of course, you can make reports, which will be very useful in seeing overall what things are happening, what updates didn't get installed, creating all that kind of stuff. So here are some of the commands you can use with PowerShell. Windows Defender. Moving on from updates. Well, kind of, sort of, because it does use Windows Update to get its virus definition, is a built-in AV, which it actually kind of surprised at how long it took Microsoft to make their own antivirus. I mean, they're the creators of the OS. They have the best resource to create an antivirus. Most of the AVs out there had to figure out ways around the Windows kernel and set up to create their own. And a lot of them use pretty insecure methods, even to this day, to ensure virus protection. So it's kind of welcome that Microsoft made their own and it works out of the box. So just as with all the other stuff, you can set it up individually or use group policy to configure. Then you'll find the Windows Defender folder. among the same place as Windows Update in group policy. Of course, you can set this up with PowerShell. That is not surprising at all. And the update service can obviously handle the update signatures for Windows Defender. So this is something that would probably be a good idea to have as automatic approval. That way those updates get sent out to your workstations right away. Any questions? How we doing? It's good. Let's good. Let's good. I see no messages in the chat. Okay.